Hello and welcome back to another video on the Football Zone. Now, as I'm sure you know, the Premier League returned on Wednesday. However, it started off with just 2 fixtures, so I posted my preview and review on Twitter, which you can watch in the description down below. But today on YouTube, as there's a full fixture list this weekend, I'm going to post my previews on YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the fixtures and analyse what I think will happen and give a prediction. The first match of the weekend is on Friday night with a 6 o'clock kickoff, I believe, and that is Norwich taking on Southampton at Carrow Road. I can actually see a home victory in this one. I think Norwich are actually a really good team on their day and probably are better than what the table suggests. And Southampton, they're kind of in no man's land. Let me just check. They're 7 points above the relegation zone with 9 to play, so I think they'll be all right. And but this is, of course, a huge game for Norwich, who are 6 points adrift and desperately need a victory to bring them back into contention. And Norwich actually have quite an easy run in with the likes of Brighton and Watford still to play. So I think if Norwich can get a good start here, they may have a chance at the Great Escape. So my prediction is Norwich 2, Southampton 1. Moving on now to the second game on Friday, Tottenham v Man United. I'm really looking forward to this game actually. Now with Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, Paul Pogba and Marcus Rashford back, this could be a really high quality game and I don't see much separating the two sides. So I'm going to go for a score draw because when you've got the likes of Harry Kane, Son, Bruno, Pogba, Rashford on the pitch, there are going to be goals. So I'm going to say full time Tottenham 2, Manchester United 2. Next up, the early kick-off on Saturday, 12:30, Watford v Leicester. A really important game at both ends of the table, with Watford only being out of the relegation zone on goal difference, and Leicester being in the Champions League by 8 points at the moment, but I still don't think that is over. I'm quite looking forward to this game actually. Two sides who have played decent football ever since Nigel Pearson came in. And we've seen what Watford can do against the likes of Liverpool, turning them over 3-0, which was an incredible result. However, I think Leicester will just sneak a victory. I don't think it will be easy, but I can see them winning 2-1. Then at the traditional kick-off time at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, our only game, Brighton v Arsenal. This is a really important game for Brighton, who are just 2 points above the relegation zone and still have 4 of the big 6 to play, I believe. Something like that anyway. And Arsenal, do they really have much to play for? I suppose they're still battling it out for a place in Europe, but they're 8 points behind the Champions League spots, so it's really Europa League or nothing for Arsenal. So this is probably a more important game for Brighton, I would say. But I think after Mikel Arteta's embarrassing loss to Man City, and even more embarrassing loss to Brentford, they'll be looking for retribution here. So I can see Arsenal going to Brighton and winning 2-0. Next up, Saturday at 5:30, we've got West Ham, who are only out the goal relegation zone on goal difference, and Wolves challenging for a Champions League spot, but definitely a Europa League spot. I think this game could go either way, but I think Wolves will be revitalised after this break, having had to deal with European football and everything. So I think Wolves will just nick a win. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Wolves. A lot of away victories today. I suppose it doesn't really make any difference at the moment. Then our final game of the day, Bournemouth host Crystal Palace at Dean Court, or whatever it's called these days. Crystal Palace kind of in no man's land, not going to qualify for the Europa League really, or very unlikely, and nowhere near the relegation zone. However, Bournemouth are inside the relegation zone on goal difference, and being the home team, I think they're the favourites here. And I think they'll just about get a crucial win to send them out of the relegation zone. So I'm saying Bournemouth 2, Palace 1. Next up, Newcastle v Sheffield United at St James's Park. If I'm being perfectly honest, I wasn't impressed by Sheffield United in their game against Aston Villa. So I think Newcastle might get the win. However, having said that, will Newcastle be distracted by all the takeover rumours? We know how poor their defence is anyway. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 ball draw here. Next up at 4:15 on Sunday, Aston Villa v Chelsea. Like Sheffield United, I wasn't particularly impressed with Villa on Wednesday night, and I think Chelsea will be buoyant considering they're in a close fight for the Champions League spot with Man United, and with the signings of Hakim Ziyech and Timo Werner confirmed, I think Chelsea will be buoyant and ready to compete, which is why I'm going to say a comfortable 2-0 win for the away side. Then we've got Everton v Liverpool at 7 p.m. on Sunday behind closed doors. That's going to be strange, man. I can't see Everton getting anything out of this. It would have been incredible if Liverpool could win the title here. The question is, how sloppy will Liverpool be? Because they were a bit sloppy towards the end of the season. I don't know if they're retiring out, if this will revitalise them, or if they won't have any motivation now they're not fighting for anything. But I can see Liverpool getting a narrow 1-0 win, to be honest. And unfortunately for Burnley, they're the ones who have to make the long trip to Manchester to face Man City on Monday Night Football. And I don't see this then going well for them. Man City were brilliant on Wednesday night, and I can see them picking up a comfortable victory against the Burnley side in no man's land. So I'm saying Man City 4, Burnley 0. And having filled all my results into a table calculator, you can see how the table had changed. Norwich and Villa still in the relegation zone, however Watford move in and Bournemouth move right up to 15th. If we go into the Europa League race, Arsenal jump above Tottenham and Wolves go above Sheffield United, and no change in the Champions League positions, with Liverpool still miles clear at the top of the Championship, Premier League. Speaking of the Championship, let's move on to the Championship predictions this week, as it is also back this week, and the biggest game is probably the first game on. Third place Fulham play fourth place Brentford. However, both teams are 6 points and 10 points respectively behind West Brom in second for automatic promotion to the Premier League. For some reason, I can see Brentford doing really well when the season comes back. They're a great side with the likes of Saeed Benrahma and Ollie Watkins in attack, and I can see them just about nicking this one at Craven Cottage 1-0. Next up, Middlesbrough v Swansea at the Riverside. Middlesbrough are just 2 points above the relegation zone, so they still have a lot to play for. Unlike Swansea, who are kind of in no man's land, despite early promotion hopes, but that's kind of faded away. They played out a 0-0 at the Liberty earlier in the season, and to be honest, I can see that happening again, really. Just not a lot separating the two sides, really, on paper, and I can just see it being an edgy 0-0. Next up, Millwall v Derby at the Den. Derby are very poor away from home, and Millwall have a pretty easy run in. So I think Millwall will pick up the W here. But I am a bit worried about Millwall, because I think the fans not being there may have quite a big difference for Millwall, so I think Millwall may struggle a bit, but with their running they should be able to claw it back. But anyway, here I'm going for Millwall 2, Derby 0. Next up is Blackpool v Bristol City. Blackburn are kind of like Swansea, in no man's land in upper mid-table. Bristol City, however, are still fighting it out for the playoffs, so Bristol City have more riding on this game. However, Ewood Park is a very tough place to go, so I think this will end in a score draw. I'm going to say Blackburn 1, Bristol City 1. Next up, Huddersfield v Wigan. This is a huge game at the bottom of the table. Huddersfield 3 points above the relegation zone in 18th. Wigan 2 points above the relegation zone in 20th. Jesus, the relegation battle is tight this year. Both lockdown came at bad times for these two clubs, because they were both starting to accelerate away from the relegation zone. Wigan got really impressive wins at Reading and West Brom, and looked like they were going to be safe. However, it wasn't to be. And I can see Huddersfield picking up the W here. I think they've got just enough in them. So I'm going to say Huddersfield 2, Wigan 0. The fact is that the John Smith helps Huddersfield a lot as well. Two sides in absolute freefall since the lockdown playing here. Hull v Charlton. Charlton slipped into the relegation zone just before, and Hull haven't won since January the 1st. And with the news that important players such as Jackson Irvine and Marcus Maddison won't be playing for Hull for the rest of the season, that's made their battle against relegation even tougher. And Charlton had some welcome news that Lyle Taylor changed his mind and will play for the club between now and the end of the season. So I think Charlton will nick a goal here and take the victory 1-0. Next up, Luton v Preston at Kenilworth Road. I can actually see Luton picking up a surprise victory here in a game which is very important for both sides. Luton battling relegation and Preston wanting to get into the playoffs. I think Luton may nick this 2-1. I just think they've got a lot of team spirit in that team, and Nathan Jones coming back will give them a major boost. So I'm predicting a home W. Next up, QPR v Barnsley. Barnsley 7 points adrift of Hull City in 21st and bottom of the league, and QPR in the middle of the table with nothing to play for. I think QPR will just nick 1-0 in what will be a very low-key affair. So I'm saying QPR 1-0 in what will be a boring and low-key affair. Next up, Reading v Stoke at Medeski. Reading have nothing to play for. However, Stoke are just 3 points ahead of the relegation zone. I think Reading might actually pick up the victory though. Stoke haven't had the best preparation for this game, with Michael O'Neill testing positive for coronavirus. However, thankfully he's better now, so that will put them at a major disadvantage. So I think Reading will get a 2-0 victory, which will be better than when the teams met in December, when there was no shots on target. Next up, Sheff Wednesday v Notts Forest. In the other game at the Nottingham Forest ground, I've forgotten the name of it now. Sheffield Wednesday won 4-0. However, I can't see a repeat of this. They've been in free fall since the turn of the year, basically. There's lots of pressure on Gary Monk. So I can see Sabri Labucci's men continuing their push for the Premier League and picking up a 2-1 victory here. As well as the Merseyside derby, we've also got the Birmingham derby this weekend. West Brom on the verge of the Premier League against lower mid-table Birmingham. I can see West Brom winning this game comfortably, really, with the news Pep Clotet would be leaving Birmingham at the end of the season. Just don't see much motivation from Birmingham's point of view. So I'm predicting 3-0 to West Brom. And finally, Cardiff v Leeds on Sunday. Leeds look set to be in the Premier League next year, really. I can't see them not being in the Premier League next year. Even for Leeds, they can't bottle 7 points in 9 games. However, Cardiff do still have a chance of the playoffs, only being 2 points outside of them. And Cardiff is a very tough place to go, so I can actually see Cardiff picking up a victory here. And I'm going to say Cardiff 2, Leeds 1. And then this is what the table looks like up once I've put my predictions in. West Brom lead from Leeds, and Millwall actually go into the playoff places. Then in the relegation zone, Charlton go out of the relegation zone, and Hull join Barnsley and Luton in there. And those are my predictions for the Premier League and the Championship games this weekend. Let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Subscribe to my other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. And a link to Twitter in the description below for daily football news. Thanks for watching, bye!